guys, we just spent some time doing our pre-lab for the Is Yeast Alive lab. And Mrs. Sheeler and I are going to actually demo this lab for you. But first, we wanted to go over some safety protocols. This is kind of our first lab that we'd be doing with heat and glassware. And the first thing is that you guys, we always have to have our safety goggles on. And I know it's super annoying because when you breathe in your mask, they fog up. It can't be like this. It can't be under our chin, on our head. So safety glasses are always important, especially when using heat and glass. Although they don't break very often, sometimes they can. Okay, so for this lab, we're going to have both Mrs. Sheeler and I doing a setup. First thing, can you guys guess what this is? This cylinder. My glasses are all foggy already. And we use a graduated cylinder when we are measuring pretty precise measurements, okay? Oh my gosh, you can see. Okay, we also need a beaker. Do you guys know what a beaker is? Okay, sometimes we get confused between a beaker and a flask. This is a beaker. Flasks are the larger bottom, skinnier top. We need a glass stirring rod, okay? 2 test tubes, okay? So these are glass. You'd be very careful with these. A rack. This is a rubber stopper, okay? And then we need balloons. And then we also have up here a ruler, masking tape, Sharpie, string, the yeast, and some other things that we might need, okay? So Mrs. Sheeler is going to start going through the procedure. I'm going to do a setup, and she's going to do a setup, and then we're going to watch and see what happens. Make some observations.
All right, so our first step is to add 30 milliliters of warm tap water to a 50 milliliter beaker. So we already did that. We added about 60 here, and we have checked the temperature with our thermometer. We're at about 40 degrees Celsius. So we're good to go there. Step 2 says to add 4 grams of yeast and stir with a stirring rod. And we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're going to take our beaker of water and we're going to add 4 grams of yeast and stir with a stirring rod. So the first thing we're going to do then is make sure that, I know that we've done this before, but remember you want to hit the tare, or sometimes it says 0 button on the balance, so that it does say 0 right now. And we need 4 grams of yeast. So we're going to try to measure that out. There we go. That's
perfect.
Exactly
4.0 grams.
Okay, and then we want 30 milliliters of water from step 1. So I'm going to take this, and like Mrs. Doolin Smith said, it's less precise, and pour this into my graduated cylinder. And get 30. And then I'm going to put it in here so that I can stir it in a little bit more easily.
And while Mrs. Sheeler is doing that, I'm going to measure out and make sure that I have 30 mils as well before I measure out yeast too. All right, so that's perfect. So I also have my beaker here. I'm going to put that aside.
I'm going to carefully pour this yeast into the water. There we go. And then we need 4 grams for Mrs. Doolin Smith.
While Mrs. Sheeler's doing that, I'm going to take my glass stir rod, and it's just a little pole, basically, and I'll start mixing up the water and yeast mixture. Okay, and you guys can see it's a really cloudy substance, and when Mrs. Sheeler's done, I'll have her walk this up to the camera so that you guys can actually see it's pretty frothy. It's kind of thicker. Walk that up. All right, and then I'm going to take this one.
You can see it's sticking to the stirring rod. And yeah, it's pretty thick. You can't see through it any longer. And then do this with the second one. All right, and then it says for step 3 to set up 2 test tubes in a test tube rack. So we have that ready. And step 4 says label one test tube S for sugar and label the other test tube N for no sugar.
Okay, and so for our labeling in class, we always use a piece of masking tape, and you want to put it around the top part of the test tube, because if you put the label down here, chances are your reaction or whatever you're observing is down at the bottom. So up here, you're going to just take your tape around and stick it to the other side. We're going to do that for all 4 of the test tubes. And like Mrs. Sheeler said, one of them is going to be labeled S for sugar, and one of them is going to be labeled N for no sugar.
All right, the next step says that we're going to add 15 milliliters of yeast solution to each test tube. So if you remember, we have 30 here. So we're going to measure again with our graduated cylinder so that we're relatively precise. And into each test tube, our yeast solution is going to go. So this is the N test tube and the S test tube. Next, we're going to add 2 grams of sugar to the test tube that we have labeled with the S. So, okay, so we're back. We're going to put 2 grams of sugar into our test tube that's labeled S. Make sure we're at 0. Okay, and we are. With our scupula. We're getting close. Okay, there we go. So we're going to add to the test tube labeled S carefully with our, I'm going to try not to dump this everywhere.
Mrs. Sheeler, you don't have to take the goggles on your eyes.
Thank you. Definitely always wear your goggles. I don't know what I was thinking there. All right.
So this is going into the test tube with the S on it.
Maybe.
Got it.
All right. And then one more time for Miss Julian Smith. Make sure we're still at 0. We are. And 2 grams. Getting close. Oh, I went a little over. Hang on. All right, we're good.
And the directions say as soon as you put that sugar in, you want to add your test tube stopper. Okay, so I put the test tube stopper on Mrs. Sheeler's.
Thank you.
As soon as she's done putting the sugar into my tube labeled S,
I'm going to try not to spill it everywhere. Oh, this is nerve-wracking. There we go.
Okay, so now we're going to put the stopper on, and we're going to gently mix.
Mixing.
Okay, we're slowly mixing. When you use a test tube stopper, you always want to make sure that you leave your finger kind of on the top to make sure that it doesn't accidentally go and everything come out.
All right, next it says that we're going to cover the opening with of the test tube with a balloon to catch any gas that is formed, and observe and record our observations carefully in the table. So you have that table in front of you every 5 minutes for 25 minutes. All right.
Okay, before we do that though, the table asks you to look at qualitative and quantitative measurements. And if you remember, qualitative are qualities. So I'm going to have Mrs. Sheeler walk forward with the N and the S.
Here's the N.
So take a look at that.
Here's the S.
What kind of qualities do you see in that? Okay, it also asks you to look at quantitative measurements. What are some things that we could do for quantitative? Remember, quantitative has to have a number. Okay, so in the meantime, we're going to put the balloons on top of our test tubes.
Surprised you didn't take the pink.
Oh, well, you shouldn't have two pinks. You won't be able to tell the difference. Mrs. Sheeler knows that pink is one of my favorite colors. Okay, so we are just putting the balloon over top of our test tube. Okay, but you have to take off the test tube stopper.
Ooh, did you hear
A
that?
little pop on the S tube there. That might be important later.
And some of it flew out. There was a little bit of liquid that came out.
Okay, so we are going to start the timer.
There it is.
And every 5 minutes, you guys are going to record. So I think that we will move our computer closer to the test tube so that you guys can see them. Okay, so we want you to look at, so pick either the pink and the blue or the pink and the red set. And what you guys are going to be looking at is anything changing? Okay, guys, so it's been 5 minutes, and before we move on, we did not give you the measurements. And on this set, if you're doing the pink and the red set, the measurements for how high up the yeast solution was, for non-sugar, it was 7.5 centimeters. Okay, for the sugar solution, it was 7.4. Okay, ooh, guys, take a look right here.
Ooh.
Something's happening. Something's happening. Okay, now for this set, the pink and the blue, for the non-sugar, the light pink, that was at 7.4 centimeters. And we're talking about the height of the solution in the tube. Okay, and the sugar solution was at 8. Now, we're going to measure, and we also think that something's happening with these balloons. At 0 minutes, both of the balloons in both situations were completely flat. But you can see after 5 minutes, something's happened. The red one is pretty flat. This light pink one is pretty flat. But how do you think we could, oh, Mrs. Sheeler, we might need to move the camera up for the balloon. There we go. How do you think that we could measure what's going on in these balloons? Think about it. Oh, you're right. We told you we had string. So maybe we could put this around the balloon, and then maybe we could take that measurement and put it on the ruler. Okay, let's see.
All right, before we do that, let's do our heights.
Okay.
We're at first N is at 8.5 centimeters.
Okay.
This is all the way to the top, so 14.5 centimeters.
Okay.
This next N is at 8.6 centimeters.
Okay.
And this is all the way to the top again. So let's say 14. 0.5. Okay, next we'll measure with our string.
So probably the best way is to just go around kind of the diameter. What do you guys think is happening? Why is the balloon inflating?
$12.5.
Okay, so the balloon after 5 minutes on this side was 12.5. And on this side,
okay. Oh, I dropped it. I'm sorry. We're at 15.
All right, 15 centimeters.
Sorry. Okay, take a look at this. It has only been 1 minute, but we wanted you to see this.
Whoa! What is happening, guys? What do you think is causing this? Remember, the goal of the lab is to determine if yeast is alive. If you look at this balloon, there is no action going on at all. It is like you just got it straight out of the package. This one too, flat, flimsy. Okay, this one, you can definitely tell that there's something going on, but...
And think about the differences between these two test tubes. We put no sugar in here with yeast. Here we put sugar with yeast. And think about that when you're answering your questions after our observations. Okay, so we're at it's been 5 minutes more. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at each before we take our measurements so you can see these up close. So in the red, if you can see this, on the left here is the N. So we just wanted you to take a look at them up close, and then I'll put them both side by side.
Maybe go up a little bit. There you go. All right, so that's the S.
And here's the N.
So this is the N. This is the S. So check out what's happening. Do you notice anything different about what the inside looks like?
Also notice the color. And that's something that you can record as well. All right, let's go ahead and take our measurement. We'll do our height first. For the first N is 9.5. And we're still at 14.5. This one's a little tricky because it's right at the tape. Oh, I can see it. All right, we're at 11. And then still at 14.5 for the other one. All right, next we'll take our string flow and try to get this measurement as accurate as we can. We're at 15. Oh, this one's bigger. Okay, that one. Oh, come on. Let's try again. 17. Okay.
Okay, so now we're gonna do it for one more 15-minute or 5-minute increment.
Hi guys, it hasn't been 5 minutes yet, but we just wanted to show you this has changed a little. There are a lot of bubbles, and this is the S, the blue S that's closer to Miss Doolin Smith.
And also, guys, one thing that we want you to notice is it's really hard because you guys are watching, but the test tube itself is so much lighter now, and the balloon is a little bit heavier. And also, you know, what could it be a measurement here about maybe temperature differences? Do you think one could be slightly warmer than the other? We'll tell you in a little bit.
Hi Hi guys, we're back. We just wanted to kind of mention something that you can't really see on the video, but there is quite a lot.
Look at inside the balloon.
Oh, you can't see it. See that line?
But we heard some little, which makes us believe that if we leave it for very much longer, that this balloon might pop off.
I'm a little worried at this point, but let's hurry up and take our measurements.
Take the last measurement of the non-sugar for the first set.
Is 10.5.
Okay.
And still at the top here, 14.5. The non-sugar here is at 11.5. And still at the top here at 14.5. And then we'll go ahead and take our measurements with our string before anything crazy happens here. I have a feeling we're getting close. Okay, we're at 16. Okay. 16 centimeters.
This one's big.
Yeah, it is. Woo! Bigger than the pink one for sure. Okay. Okay, and this is at 18 centimeters. Wow.
Okay, guys, so a really quick recap of the balloon sizes. The pink one was 0, 12 and a half, 15, and 16 centimeters. The blue one here was 0, 15, 17, and 18. Now, real quick, take a peek at the differences. This one, non-sugar. This one, sugar. Okay? Now, we're going to show you guys what yeast looks like in the package.
Yeah, so in order to do that, I think I'm going to just take that's a good idea. We'll just use this because it is nice to know kind of what it looked like at the beginning. So if you can see this, they're very small granules. I'm going to try not to put this on the computer. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. I can't tell. And so you have an idea of what it looks like. It almost looks like sand, but a little bit more
kind of a
uniformly shaped.
Like kind of a light brown, grainy, rough to the touch substance. Okay, so now that you guys have seen what's happened, you guys are going to work and try and answer some of the questions and make some inferences based on what you saw. Okay? So thanks for watching. We're going to end this before we have a big explosion here.
We're close.